In the last liqa, Huzur mentioned some of the incidents during Huzur's hijrat from Pakistan.
Oh yes. And I told things from my memory at that time. So during this period, I have been able to get written statements of the people concerned. So it will make a very interesting story, a real story, not an imaginary story, to tell, and one can see many signs of Allah's favors in this. Can I start? First of all, I should like you to share with me the dream of Saleh Safi, which I had remembered generally, but not in such detail as she has written. Now, that morning when I arrived in London, that night she had seen a dream. And in that dream, she had said something which I am going to read from her letter. And she was discussing it with her sister, and she knew certainly that this dream means that I have reached London. So as they were approaching some college, a sister of theirs ran towards them and said, "Please stop. So what happened?" He said, "Her son has arrived in London safely." So I'm going to read this incident in her words, first in Urdu and then in English. She says that the dream which I wrote to you, I placed somewhere in safe custody, but immediately I can't find. I've forgotten where I placed. But I remember the dream, so I'm writing it again. The dream is, she says, I saw this dream on the night after which you, in the morning after that night you arrived here, and she saw the dream the same night. And she was traveling by car that morning with her husband, Safi Mahmood, and knowing most certainly that this dream meant my arrival to London, she said, "Is it not safe for Hazur to stay any more in Pakistan?" My husband asked me, and she says that, "What's the matter?" I told him that last night I saw in a dream that my stay in Pakistan, that is my stay in Pakistan, was no longer safe. Now she told the dream while he was still driving the car. When I started the dream, she says my husband turned the car towards my parents' house. Maulvi Abdul Karim Sahab was still alive. There is a school where I had to drop my young daughter. There, my younger sister, Amna Begum Dr. Mubashir Ahmed, was waiting for me in a very excited state and restless state. And she was loitering like this, up and down, and she seemed to be highly excited. When she saw our car, she just ran towards our car and said, Safi bhai, Appa. It's a blessing of Allah that Hazur has reached safely London this morning. Safi and I exchanged looks because this is what we were discussing. Now the dream itself. The dream which had left no doubt to her that it is about me. She says that I saw that there is a building, and outside that building there is darkness. There Jews have encircled Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, and they do not have good intention. They do not want to Isa escape from that circle which they had drawn around him. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is standing slightly at a raised place within that circle. That is Rabba, you know. ذرا اونچے مقام پر کھڑے ہیں. This dream is very significant, 100% from Allah. When I see him like this, surrounded by Jews, hostile Jews, I know for certain that they intend to murder him. But just he can't break that cordon and can't get out, but he intends to leave. Then I feel that it is highly important for me to keep standing in case he needs my help. And I keep watching him encircled by the hostile Jews. Then suddenly she dozed off. And Isa was no longer there. He had disappeared. I was looking right and left, wondering where Hazrat Isa had gone. So a voice told me to go in that direction. You will find Isa alayhi salam there. So I ran towards that direction. Then I see him, he's smiling, standing at a safe place. Then I found myself standing before him. And on one side of me there was my sister Amna. On the other side there was one other lady. I am overwhelmed with emotions, and my voice is caught with that emotion in my throat, but I keep crying. I want to ask something. Then he beckons to me and says, what do you want to ask? Then my younger sister said, Aapki wapsi kab hogi? When will you return? You see, it was no doubt that the name was different, but because a relationship with Jews and Ahmediyya, and Hazrat Masih being Hazrat Isa, and I was his caliph, so it was shown in that. But wapsi kab hogi? This is the strange question. If Jesus had returned from heaven, he wouldn't return to heaven like this. So she understood that it is Rabba which is being spoken of in this. Instead of answering us in words, he gives us as present some ears of wheat which are full of wheat seeds, and they're shining, and Isa alayhi salam smiles and indicates that this is the answer when I shall return. Now this dream in the end has to be interpreted. What does it mean? But one thing is certain, that the return is essential. And the season seems to be that of ripening of wheat. You understand? So this is apparently the answer, this interpretation of this dream. Now I'll turn to another by Usman Chini Sahib. You know, there I had told many, at very little time, just 3 days after the ordinance I had to leave, or they could have, surrounded me so that I would not be ever able to leave again. So that is why there was a pressing for me to leave immediately. I have told you the incident that when I sent Masood Jelmi Sahib, late Masood Jelmi Sahib, to reserve a seat in KLM, I had asked for a seat after a week because immediately it was not possible. But the general manager said that my advice is you immediately contact your head of the department, head of the community, and tell her I want him to leave immediately. Although this plane is heavily booked, but I'll manage to postpone the travel of 4 first-class passengers, and somehow I'll influence them and they will vacate their seats for me. So I said, yes, all right, if he says so, then it's okay. So before I departed, I had asked so many people to have dua istikhara and find out from Allah whether it's good for me to leave or not. Usman Chini Sahib was among those. Usman Sahib says that I saw in a dream that I am ready to leave for Islamabad, and there were guards around me in green uniforms. And the guards were surrounded by government police. That is just like the scene of Salah Safi, that they were guarding not to let us go. And this is exactly what happened. They tried their best to surround me and not to let me escape from their threat. So he said, somebody said that he is going to Islamabad. So I say, there is some luggage in it, but I do not see him. Now here, because he is doing it from his memory, he has forgotten a small part. He says that when I go to the car and peep into the car, which is my car, I was not there. And someone else was sitting wearing a turban like me. Now, there are 2 things which are very strange and interesting in this. My late elder brother, Hazrat Dr. Mirza Ahmad Sahib, sat in the car wearing a turban like me, so that after the prayer when we leave, some people may not say that the car is empty. So they could not clearly see in that dim light who was sitting, but he was sitting with a turban like mine. So he said, when I saw there was something like you, somebody was sitting, but you, not you, who was wearing a turban. And he didn't know that I was not going to Islamabad, I was going to Jhelum. No, not Jhelum. I was leaving. But that car which carried Bhai Munawwar was leaving for Islamabad, so there was no lie. That was a car which was my car. It had gone with Dr. Mirza Munawwar Ahmad Sahib and a few other cars or guards towards Islamabad. But they intended not to go to Islamabad, but stop at Jhelum, where my late cousin Mirza Munir Ahmad Saifi's father used to live. So that is what he saw. This is true that car left. But then he understands from this dream, he himself interpreted that I interpreted that Hazrat Sahib has gone to some safe place quietly, and whether he reaches Islam or not, I don't know. But then when he saw the address, telegraphic address of London Mosque, it was Islamabad. So then he realized immediately, and then he sent a message to me or wrote to me that now I understand the whole dream, that the word where you were leaving for Islamabad meant in the dream that you were leaving for London Mosque, because the address of London Mosque is Islamabad. This Islamabad that we have here was not yet built. Now the third dream. Amatul kya naam hai इनका? Amatul Hafiz. Mirza Nasir Ahmad Sahib, who was a missionary here and is gone to Pakistan now, he has written this dream of his mother, which I did not remember correctly, but I think if I find out from my papers, I will have it somewhere. And I remember the whole incident anyway. He was also requested by me to say have istikhara. He says, I am going to Pakistan, where there the original dream which my mother dictated to someone is still lying in our papers, so he will send that dream to me. But as far as I remember, the dream is that night when I left, that night she saw in the dream that I am sitting in a raised room which you can see, because it is covered with glasses, so you can see inside from some distance. So I noticed that Azur was sitting in that place, and that thing flew away with him to some other place. Now that was obviously a plane. It was leaving for London. It had many windows like planes have. And also to rise up, to go into that raised thing, you have to climb some stairs which are attached to, temporary stairs as attached to the planes. And when I enter that thing and climb the stairs, my wife is with me. She recognized her. So there were very few. From my family, I was just myself and my wife, nobody else. Now the other thing which I remember very clearly is that we had told, we didn't tell anybody that we were leaving. So it was kept secret. Everybody thought the car had gone to Islamabad, so I would be sitting in there. The vague impression they had of Bhai Munawwar was that I was sitting there. So it was kept highly secret. We didn't want the public and through the public intelligence agencies to know that I have already gone. And the plane had to leave that night. But in the morning, this lady, Amatul Hafiz, went to Gol Bazaar and went from shop to shop and said, Alhamdulillah, Hazur has left for some foreign country. So they laughed at her. So what do you mean is that he's gone to Islamabad? You don't know. God has shown me. I've seen with my own eyes. He's sitting in a raised platform. There are some stairs attached to it, and then his wife is with him, so he is definitely gone. So Alhamdulillah that nobody believed her. They all said, no, it's impossible. You don't think your dreams are always true. This dream is just imagination. But with the grace of Allah, that night I left Karachi and reached safely London, as Saleh Safi has mentioned in their dream. अच्छा अब ये देखें, ये क्या है?
हेड ऑफ द अहमदीया मूवमेंट.
हाँ,
पासपोर्ट कॉपी.
ये कब का है ये?
When Hazur traveled from Karachi.
नहीं, तारीख क्या है पासपोर्ट ऑफिसर की?
When the passport was issued.
ये देखें पासपोर्ट जब रिन्यू हुआ है
जी,
वो कब का है?
that date is not on this page.
All right.
Yes.
That I remember.
Yes, that was.
Another very amazing thing happened, that my passport had run out and I could not have traveled to England without a passport. So I went for the renewal of the passport to an officer who happened to be an Ahmadi. He's still alive and he's written everything. No, but he was a very dutiful person, very honest. No, he kept me waiting without renewing the passport for about an hour or so. And repeatedly he was telephoning somewhere. I don't know what was happening. But every time he telephoned somewhere, it was engaged. So ultimately he just signed the passport and renewed it and gave it to me. Now what happened was that Zia had dictated an order which was sent to all passport officers, in which he had said Mirza Tahir Ahmad, the fourth Caliph, cannot leave the country. Now he was amazed that there must be some mistake. Mirza Nasir, this is not Mirza Nasir, it is Mirza Tahir Ahmad. And he is the fourth Caliph, and Nasir Ahmad was third Caliph, and he is dead. So he wanted to ascertain from security agencies whether he should renew this passport or not. And again, amazingly, for 1 hour he tried and rang, and every time that office was busy and he couldn't contact. So then he said, all right, this passport is clear and this person does not seem to have been forbidden. So he passed it. He signed the renewed passport. And this is the same story which was repeated during my departure time. There too, my departure was delayed for about 1 hour because Central Security Officer, क्या कहते हैं?
Intelligence branch.
Intelligence Bureau.
Intelligence.
The chief of the Intelligence Bureau was in Islamabad, And this was the problem which immigration people were facing. What to do? The order clearly said Mirza Tahir Ahmad is forbidden from leaving any border. And the name was Mirza Tahir Ahmad, but there was a contradiction that it said Mirza Tahir Ahmad, the fourth Caliph. So they also were in great puzzle, and this dilemma could not be solved there. And they repeatedly rang the Intelligence Bureau, Central Intelligence Bureau in charge, whatever his title I don't remember, but he was the boss of the entire intelligence. He was not at home. So 1 hour they delayed the flight and they just could not get any answer from there. So at last they decided that the plane people are pressing for departure. Already it's getting late. It was to leave at 12 o'clock, now it is 1 o'clock. So they passed it and they said, all right, leave. But when I left, he reached home. And amazingly, Allah had used same Ziaul Haq for this. Ziaul Haq had called him for some intelligence talk about the intelligence things over the country, to his palace. And all the time the train was delayed, he was with Ziaul Haq. When he returned to home, he received a message that there was a continuous call from Karachi immigration office while you were absent. So he telephoned them. I said, what is the matter? He said, this is the matter, we wanted to clarify whether Mirza Tahir is forbidden or not to leave Pakistan. He said, yes, it is he. I said, but he has gone already. So this is the amazing thing, and many other things also happened. Ordinance, 20M, the ordinance was issued on 26 April 1984. Between 28 and 29 April, that is just 3 to 4 days, 3 days in fact, I left by car, and not my car but some other person's car, for Islamabad, not for Karachi. So we traveled all the way straight to Karachi. From KLM flight, I took the KLM flight between 29th and 30th of April, after midnight, as I've told, 1 o'clock. At Holland we stayed for a while, they all have a stopover at Holland. They say it is here, I thought it was earlier, but who said Qariban 11 baje qabl dopahr?
This is what I remember. This is what I remember.
No, but at about 11 o'clock, I reached London Mosque, not airport.
See.
Because I arrived airport early in the morning. Not very early, but
yes,
about
okay.
7, 8 o'clock. This is also wrong. Your memory is wrong. With me there was just Asfa Begum, and also in the other class were Brigadier Wakil Zaman. In the first class we were traveling just both of us. Our daughters were not with us. They followed later on. Or did they come with us?
I remember that they came.
Then they were not traveling in the first class anyway.
Yes. They were.
In the first class just two Asfa and I were together, and my daughters Mona and Tuba must have been traveling in the second class along with Brigadier Sahib and Chaudhry Hamid Rasulullah Sahib. So this is the story, long story of all that happened. Can you remember and translate it now?
I'll try. Yes.
I remember now, it has to be corrected.
Yes.
I didn't go to Islamabad again for extending my my passport, I must have gone to him previously.
Before this.
But whenever I went, already the order had been issued.
Yes.
This is certain. Because he had many inquiries from intelligence of police, etc. That why did you have his passport extended when you had a specific order by General Ziaul Haq that he is not permitted to leave.
Yes.
Any questions, further question? So only one thing has to be explained. When I had my passport renewed, but whenever I had it renewed, it most certainly happened that before that the Zia had issued the order. Or investigation could not have been held against this passport officer. He was charged with this by the intelligence police that because you are an Ahmadi, you have transgressed your duties to the state, and you renewed the passport of Mirza Tahir Ahmad, knowing very well that the President of the state had ordered that he cannot leave from any borders of the country. This he also sent to me in writing. Now he is retired, now he can do anything. So I don't know the date, find out from him.
Yes.
The exact date.
Yes. The serial number simply indicates 83. Then the serial number of that year is there. Date we will have to find out. It must be in 83. Yes. Huzur left in 84.
That's what I mean.
Yes. Yeah.
In 83,
Yeah.
I was already Khalifa
Yes.
Yes. And Zia must have had this plan ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would indicate